on the agenda. Also, the planning and zoning board members as well. That's going to be a double. That's double. They're going to have more work than what we should have, and so that's going to double what we are trying to do with the planning and zoning. I think it may be legal, but I think it's a conflict because there's no check and balance in reference to what each board is required to do. And the other issue is I heard about the advertisement. I think that it would be good if council could appoint someone to the board, or recommended someone to the board, and they deal with all the other positions. But I think one of the real problems is that because the lack of activities on the different boards, their time frame that's really spread out because there's no activity, and then you got to have training in reference to that. In terms of what the zoning board of adjustment rather is supposed to do. So I think we also have to consider the people time who is on the planning and zoning board. I think that could be a breach of their time, of the time of that board. So I think you need to really kind of table this and come back and bring it back to the drawing board and try to get, because I know there are other people who wants to be on that particular, who will serve on that board. But I know the effort is being made, but a more certain effort needs to be made in order to make sure that we do have all the functioning boards, so that each board can actually function in the proper manner, which has been set up. Thank you.
We have Ms. Joyce Harvey. Good evening, council, citizens. Please. We have some very dedicated people who work here. I have decided to be an advocate for myself as a citizen, to constantly bring up issues about, as Councilwoman Randolph says, people we hire and what are the qualifications, and feeling like there are people who are unqualified who get paid more than the police, and that bothers me. But what really bothers me is Mr. Cousin wasn't here when I talked about the Recreation Director, Mr. Darius Washington, who I do not know. I'm just looking at evidence that's written evidence about some things that I feel should be addressed. And I know he wasn't here when I mentioned a couple of things. I read some things last time. That was a letter about him. There's another matter which I'm not going into tonight that I wanted to stress 3 or 4 things that I feel must be addressed. People cannot be hired and then promoted after things are brought up about them. These things are not looked into. So I will just get into it. And people should be professional. So, so I have one of Ms. Simmons' letters that she wrote, where it stated that he has made disparaging remarks to female employees about Councilwoman Randolph in an unprofessional manner that they did not want to hear, but that did not stop him from talking. He should not be making disparaging remarks about anyone on his council and not at work. That's something personal. Whatever he thinks, it should not be there. Okay. Again, there were tablets that Mr. Daniels donated in 2023 that the kids were never allowed to use. And one of the most annoying things to me, which I did not mention last time, but I'm going to mention it this time in hopes that somebody addresses this. Okay. He talked in a disparaging way about Dr. Finley and said he'll make sure she never works in this town again because he's friendly with the mayor. And stated things like, this is a quote, he doesn't know how she can keep a man or how she can keep them sexually engaged with her attitude. That is not appropriate. Something needs to be addressed about that, and there's more. But why go into more? I'll just keep coming back and bringing more witnesses and adding more until this is addressed. And thank you all for our incredible employees here. I just told Ms. King at least I never have to request a file of whoever she is suggesting should work here. Because I know she got that covered. That's it. Thank you.
Ms. Angela Johnson.
The numbers late.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, fellow residents. So I want to talk about the records clerk position. If I can draw your attention to page 21 of the packet that is going to be online. It is online for the second budget hearing. During the second budget hearing, the decision was made to for a 2% COLA, one-time payment based upon column F. The salary in that column for the records clerk part-time position that would have been approved if you paid attention to the details was $16,640 with a 2%. The proposed salary that was in column G was $19,320. I understand the need to attract competent, skilled individuals. However, I need clarity, and I would invite you to do the research. Because if we're going from $16 an hour for a part-time salary at 1,040 hours a year, that gives you $1,640. And if you're trying to hire somebody and offer them $22, that is a 37.5% increase over the $16. I agree with what Councilwoman, and I'm going to make a personal statement. I have seen a position advertised here for my skill set or for my what I do in accounting. I know that's not my value, so I will not apply for the job. Sometimes we try to get into a position and an employer at a lower rate, and then we try to work the system. And then we sometimes have those that are in positions to work the system. So the question would be, we just approved a budget. We know the town's budget is tight, which is why you decided to only do a 2% COLA. So where is the additional money coming from? What does your contingency look like? What do the town's reserves look like? Making these one-on-one unilateral, let's look at one position here, one position there. I think you're doing a disservice to the residents of this town. And honestly, you have a fiduciary responsibility for the town's assets. So I understand, and then the question would be, and I know it's been advertised, I know it's been approved that the position should be posted, and I love how quickly Ms. King responds to records. The question is, what is the need? And I'm inviting you, please do not just make a decision quickly. Look at the numbers and get the details, please.
Thank you.
And that was it.
All right, the next item on the agenda are the public hearing items. So the approval of the second reading of ordinance 2024-6. Ms. King.
Ordinance number 2024-6, an ordinance of the town of Eatonville, Florida, creating chapter 38, article 8, operation of golf carts on designated town streets in the code of ordinances, providing for definitions, operations, restrictions, registration, and enforcement procedures, providing for codification, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
You've heard the preamble. This item is now open for discussion from the public. Is there anyone wishing to speak?
I have a question.
If there's anyone wishing to speak, go to the lectern.
This is about the golf cart.
Yes.
Maybe I just haven't seen it, but where's golf carts? Are they golf carts, or is this for somebody that's like coming into the town?
Certain areas of the park of the town do have golf carts.
Oh, that's all. Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, and Chief, if you can help me, a few questions that were presented to me personally was, I know we're saying that certain streets, meaning most likely the internal streets. And so we know that we have what, quarter mile between the Bethune and then Bel Air. So what would be how do you manage the fact that if individuals with golf carts are moving from the west end of the town to the east of the town, how is that going to be managed? So because now they're on a main street. And then, how do we manage that without a lot of conflict and, those things, as well as if you're in a neighborhood on the south side of the street, obviously you've got to cross Kennedy to get to the north side of your community. Are we putting in, similar to like over at Doug's Dread when they're crossing over Park, I think it is, or yeah, Park, they have the flashers and everything, and so people know, but obviously they're on the golf course, they know that you can only cross here. So, and then if we're having to do that additional infrastructure and things, where, again, out of the budget, are we gonna be able to cover that cost? I think because I do live in a neighborhood that I see the golf carts, I think that this is a wonderful idea. Only because I've seen minors and more individuals than the golf cart allows on them. I see them in the evenings, which is creating a hazard, an accident waiting to happen. So I definitely I appreciate the fact that you all have brought this forward, but just having, if you can like share some clarification on how that management part would work, I think would be beneficial.
I would just add, I think it's definitely a work in progress. I've reached out to other municipalities like Mount Dora, who is very big about using theirs as well. I've even talked with Belle Isle a little bit, how to utilize theirs. So the goal is to effectively come up with a program that they have to register down at the police department. That's where the training will come in to those who register their vehicles. And then they're held responsible for who they let drive. Of course, that's the backdrop to that. That's where the, ticketing or, violations come in, the offenses. But I think the main goal is education and training and the enforcement part of it. Now, we have to be honest, the west side of our four, the main complaint from Councilman Mack is people can't even walk down the road. So how are we gonna handle golf carts? We get 4 or 5 of them. But we'll adjust and deal with it accordingly. What I don't want is another environment where the police have to bodyguard everything, so to speak. Right? We get the brunt of the council meetings about us, quote unquote, harassing people about things that has been implemented by the council. So the goal is just training and education, and trying to, work with our residents and give that training that's necessarily needed. I think it can work. I think we just have to really keep our thumb on it, and we just really have to hold our residents. The key to everything we're doing with any type of incident, crime, whatever, we all have to work together. The police can't do it all. Citizens have to help govern themselves, and when they do that, then it allows us to just be a reinforcement and a support to the people who already want things right. Basically, that's how we were raised. Our neighborhoods were raised by citizens, and most of us didn't even know half the police officers at the time because Mama was the first police officer you ever going to see. So I think that's just keeping that brand of marketing, how we do things. We can get those things done. But my goal is we'll definitely do an informational before everything starts putting together. I'm still working with legal on the design of everything and putting things out. We'll have to get with traffic engineering on what can be put, where it can be put, those type of safety equipment. And yes, it does have a cost to it. The items that we're gonna have to get placed, they're not gonna be free. So we're gonna have to look at those from a budget standpoint when the time comes.
I guess my thing is, at the most, I I've seen, I don't know how many golf carts there are, maybe 5, maybe I saw. I've seen, I don't know how many there, but even if all 5 of them register, that doesn't justify putting investing so much money in crossings. But I think in your safety classes, making sure that that's covered, because if 5 register, then that's only, if it's more than that, they have not registered, then I think that's the tricky part.
Right. And just to add to what you're saying, man, I think even at the minimum now, I was just talking to Mr. Presley earlier this week. I think we need to even look at the yellow cones we have in the middle of the road, right here down front of town. I'd like to go down a little further.
Mhm.
I think it gives that opportunity to people, that causes them to caution themselves when they drive through, because they see something on the road that catches their eye that says stop, pedestrians,
Right.
things like that. Those are things we need to look at. I think the crosswalks need to be repainted.
Right.
I think we need to bring those up so that we're allowing the brightness to come back into.
Which is much cheaper than, pretty old brick crossings.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Science is the key to this one.
All right, thanks. All right, if there are no other comments from, I was supposed to talk, sorry. If there weren't no other comments from the public period is now closed. This item is now open for discussion with the council.
I have some questions for discussion.
Wait, could we go ahead and move and then discuss within the motion? Or, yes, so we're gonna go ahead and move it and discuss within the second of the motion.
So, yeah, just.
So there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilwoman.
Okay, thank you. Okay, first of all, this is October 1st. And when did we first brought this to council first time? It was a couple of months ago. Was it?
I don't know. I we got the assignment.
Do you know,
to
Mr.
draft.
Presley, the
It
first
was,
time?
I'd have to look it up, but I know it was, end of spring. I think it was in May, June.
Okay. All right, my concern is concerning the golf course. It says, I don't see anywhere in the information that was provided as to the boundaries for transportation and use of these golf carts on the roads, the streets in Eatonville. Have those boundaries or streets been established?
Yes, we're going to.
My understanding was you all would establish with,
Correct.
that was not the United States. You guys would come together.
As I mentioned last time, one of the things you might consider, or you might not, is whether or not Kennedy should be included. And I heard at that time, well, gotta include Kennedy because it's had links to town. Okay, but it's also a major thoroughfare, and it's, if you're looking for a danger zone there, that's it. So, but the point is, the reason it was raised is y'all set the boundaries, then we put them in the ordinance. I don't know what the boundaries will be.
Okay, so do we also set the boundaries for the speed?
That's by law.
By law, you know.
Okay, now on Kennedy Boulevard, what is the speed there? 30, 35 or 40? 35?
Chief, what was the actual, speed limit that you could ride the golf cart?
That's it.
So 35.
35?
Yeah, that's why you go from Tiller Road to.
Okay,
Is
now, have we had any public workshops with the public? I'm not talking about talking to this person, that person, that person. I mean, actually schedule a workshop for the whole town to come out and hear about these golf carts. Have we done that? Yes or no?
That's what the readings are for.
No, I'm asking a question. Have we scheduled a community workshop for the whole town about golf carts? Yes or no?
Yes, here.
you do it now, but we.
No, I'm not
But
talking
even,
about now.
no, even before the hearings, it was
When?
on the workshop.
Can you tell me when?
Prior
I'm
to
not
the
talking
hearings.
about in a meeting. I'm talking about.
I can't give an exact date, but yes, it was in a workshop right here in this building.
Well, I'm not really referring to this workshop. Okay, a community workshop, not a town workshop, right in here at a scheduled meeting. Because that's important for training and education, to let everyone knows exactly what we're doing or whatever, just to kind of get more feedback. It's just like on Saturday, we had a workshop for the community. We also had about the master plan in here. but I don't consider that as a workshop.
We had an
What we
announcement
did-
here, but we
what-
did not have a master planning discussion,
Excuse me, I'm talking.
but you're talking to me.
No, well,
Go ahead and
no,
finish.
you
Go ahead
talking
and
to me.
finish.
I'm not
Thank you. Go
talking
ahead and
to you.
finish.
I'm just explaining.
Go ahead and finish.
Okay. Just like we had a workshop on Saturday. It's the same thing. Why can't we do the same for the public here? Okay, so I have some safety concerns. And so, Chief, let me ask you a question. Even for now, are golf carts legal or illegal right now in the town of Eatonville?
No.
No way.
No, they're not illegal.
No, they're not legal?
To purchase.
Operate on the streets, they're
No,
illegal.
no, no.
You can own them, you just can't run them on the streets.
Okay, so if they're not legal, why are we allowing people to drive on the streets? And if that's the case, how come our officers have not been involved as far as maybe doing an awareness? I'm sorry, you can't drive the golf cart or whatever.
I'll be honest, I have not seen that on a regular basis of golf carts just driving up and down Kennedy Boulevard. And I do walk a lot during the day. Now, that doesn't mean that I might miss someone driving on the day I'm not here. That's not a constant thing that I have witnessed. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But that's like saying, that people don't speed. I don't catch every speeder as well. But if there's an incident that we can't interact, we interact.
Okay.
But the goal was for you all to decide whether you wanted to implement this or not implement it. If you don't want to implement this, then we will go to whatever.
Okay, so we allow individuals to drive golf carts and perform illegal violations.
Well, I don't agree with, we allow anything.
Yeah, yes, we do,
That's not-
because nobody has been written up about driving riding a golf cart. And it's not legal. We haven't passed anything to say that it's okay to do it.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, well, that's what I'm
I
talking
don't
about.
necessarily agree with that. Do we allow anything?
But in this case,
I
Councilwoman,
see where we're going with this.
well, I was gonna say, Councilwoman, in this case, in order for it to be allowed, would mean they have to have seen it and just overlooked it. And what he's saying is, if it is happening, it hasn't been seen and been targeted by our police department to address it, is what I'm hearing. But to say it's just being allowed.
And once again, if you wish
I'm just
to.
telling you.
I would like to know what, I'm sorry, I would like to know. Just go ahead, I'm sorry, when you finish, I'll address Mr. President, go ahead.
Well, all I was gonna say is if my door is open, if you wish to come and acknowledge or give me anything that you have information on, I'm more than willing to get our guys out and get them busy. They're not afraid of work. I'm not afraid to put them to work. So that's not the question on the floor. So if they miss something, then my job is to help them find what they need to find, but I do need my residents to help me get information. That's no different than what we talked about just earlier with Councilman about someone sleeping at the door. If you give me the information, then I can implement off the information.
All right, I was just, Chief, the only reason I was throwing that out there, because you do such a great job in all the things with the workshops in the community and all. So I was just wondering, why is it at that level? We haven't been able to do the same.
Well, at
Because
this
we're making
point,
a major change in the town.
right, but at this point, everything was still being handled by legal, the paperwork, the design, all that was put together. So what you don't want to do is hold the information where you don't have everything concrete.
And I was gonna say that too. I think what the community meeting you're talking about was gonna be had if this was approved. To discuss how do we implement this within the community and whether those guidelines are and those guardrails are based off what's approved. Is what we were looking, from my conversation with Chief, if the council approved of this ordinance, which it was looking to do, then we would meet, go over the boundaries, set up a community meeting, say, hey, if you have a golf cart, you need to follow such guidelines. Here are the roads that are approved based off what this new ordinance state, and we go from there. But I also want us to be cognizant of this now. If we say no to this, and now you start to pursue this, it's almost looking like now you put the police in the situation they got a target to handle these situations when we could have avoided that by creating an ordinance to address it overall. So I'm just giving you a heads up what's going to happen next if we walk away and say no, and then now we're going to say to Chief, go get them, and now they're going to say, well, you just did this on purpose to us versus addressing.
Well, we should be doing this, we should be consistent. We don't have it in place anyway.
I agree. I'm just saying, but now that it's being publicly discussed, it's gonna put the police in a targeting type situation on this matter, because now you're gonna say, well, go address this. And now they're gonna address it and say, well, didn't y'all have an ordinance to consider it? I'm just trying to give you the public purview of what's gonna happen if we go that route. Just give me a little.
I would just like to finally add, my goal is to come here and support whatever you all bring to me and bring to the table. So that there is nothing that, if you bring to me that we need to deal with it from a law standpoint, that our staff is not willing to get involved in. So if I give that perception that we were ignoring anything, that was not the case at all.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay,
Thank you.
this is one of the reasons I brought this, you said the chief will say, this is one of the reasons I brought this to the town attention, because I've seen this happen with these golf carts, and I know that people will get harassed with golf carts. But it's just like having a 4-wheeler you get for Christmas, a mini bike you get for Christmas, or those things be on the road going around the city. So this is one of the reasons why we need to implement this before we don't have this issue. And the street limits are from, if people don't understand, from Keller Road, where it's 35 miles per hour, to East Street that we have here on, for you on the Maitland. And all the roads in the community, they have to abide by the speed limits. That's one reason. And my other question is, if I get my golf cart registered with the DMV, do I still go through this process with Town of Eatonville? If I got a tag on it, so that golf cart don't have to come through the town of Eatonville because it's already registered with the state. So that's something we need to look at too.
But I think the goal was, by coming through the town, was to give that consistency of what you desire you want it to do.
Right.
Because the state won't necessarily go into the extra of the training and the talking and the conversation. They just, you pay the money through the window, the lady stands and you move on. Well, it was more of an in-depth and a touch, if you will, of what we were doing from the adding in.
Like I said, some golf carts might be street legal and have a tag, and they pay the annual tag. Well, I'm gonna pay another tag with the Town of Eatonville if I already got my.
Well, it wasn't a tag, it was more like a sticker or something.
It's like a, yes.
But I see it in here, it said annual fee, and a one-time fee $25, and the annual fee for renewal $15. So my thing is, if my golf cart is already street legal, like a vehicle, so why I'm coming to Eatonville and paying extra?
It may be street, go ahead. I'll let you.
I agree. And again, this is a policy call, but if you haven't ever voted on the Winter Park Maitland Chain of Lakes, then you wouldn't know this, but I have paid for a Florida FL numbers, and I've got a tag on my trailer, and I cannot go on those lakes ever without getting a ticket unless I go through either Winter Park or Maitland and get a sticker that says I can go on those lakes because they police them. And so they're charging me for they're having their boat and their police out there on the weekends and other stuff to make sure I don't speed and hit somebody in the water or whatever else. So I don't remember what the fee is. I haven't used it in several years, but I do. So similarly here, this would be cost of the price law.
That's what he talked about. That's what I make sure. I mean, that's sure.
Yes.
But I just want to make sure that we understand that all vehicles, like let's say photos that people get for Christmas, they get on these streets and drive across Kennedy, up and down Kennedy, with mini bikes and everything. So we definitely have to do our due diligence signage from Keller Road to Eatonville.
And this also gives us a chance to educate and enforce from the standpoint, or educate and train from the standpoint of now, hey, we have an ordinance where you can have it here. Here's the process you need to go through. So, they can follow those guidelines. And the police, it gives the police a engine to be able to do it the right way versus.
It's a key component of any type of community policing, is you want to have that interaction before violations occur and things like that, that you don't. You're given the opportunity to say, well, I was told, I was advised, I'm educated on.
We definitely educate the community on these on this issue here. So the ones that own them, we definitely reach out to them. It's passing. So they'll know, come to a meeting, we have a meeting here at Town Hall or the insurance, whatever, to do that community meeting that Councilman Randolph said, to educate, to let them know the feature of golf cart owners. Come in and say, okay, this is what it costs.
Yes, sir.
You already said you have trainings.
Yes.
That's community. You wanted to talk about the streets. So are we saying 5 miles from the residence that's registered, or only do we establish now the streets or later?
If you're gonna take it forward, this is a first reading or a second reading. You wanna have something that we can attach or a statement that said this applies to all the streets in the jurisdictional limits of the town. And that's what I was trying to bring up. If that's it, it's pretty easy. If it's, we're gonna exclude this street, that street, the other street, or from this point to this point of the street, then I need to know, I can't put it in there until y'all tell me what it is you wanna exclude.
I think it's from Kelly Road, where it's 35, start at, to East Street, where it's 35.
So
Or
that's
25, yeah, here. 25 here.
jurisdictional streets.
Yeah, if it's all the streets, the jurisdictional streets, plus Kennedy, which I'm not even sure Kennedy's a jurisdictional street, it may be a state.
County road.
County road.
But if it is, then yeah, all the streets that are within the town's jurisdiction, it's illegal. Understanding that we can't set those rules for anything that's not our streets.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
But if there are streets that are ours that we don't want golf carts on,
Correct.
you know, maybe near the school, or I don't know, but my point is, if there are those streets, I need to know, so I can put them in there.
Okay. So do we say all jurisdictional streets?
Within the town of Eatonville, that's what you want, yes.
Under 35 miles per hour.
That doesn't even matter, let me tell you why. For them to be a lawful golf cart, they have to be governed, their engines have to be governed. So for example, I have a Kawasaki mule, you know, familiar with that, it's a four-wheeler. But it's got a governor on it that keeps it below the legal speed, so in a golf court community, if I had a Kawasaki mule instead of a golf cart, I could still run it. But it only goes so fast. Same here, so if you have a four-wheeler that meets the golf cart speed limits, even though it doesn't look like a golf cart, but it can't go faster than that limit, then it's legal.
So I guess, what is and I'm gonna ask you, Vice Mayor, what is your intent? To restrict?
Nope.
Or to just make certain that it's just done and exercised in a safe manner
Yes.
in town? Okay. So that would be the jurisdictional.
Right. If, for example, chief or one of his officers sees somebody zipping along at 40 miles an hour, they're in illegal vehicles to start with. It's not about your golf cart. They're not a golf cart by the definition of the statute. They're already going too fast. So if I took a regular four-wheeler, a Raptor or something like that, can do 50 miles an hour, that ain't a golf cart.
But they're going to speed anyway.
Whether they're operating within, a block of their home or 5 miles of their home, well, a mile of their home, as long as it's safe, they don't have children driving, they adhere to the policies and the regulations and statutes.
Which you would see if you went, for example, and I'm sure you guys have spent some time maybe in Winter Garden, and you'd see their golf carts everywhere. They got golf cart parking spaces and all that stuff. And, that's how it goes.
All right, so it's been moved and, if we're ready to move on, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
All right, so second reading has been passed. The next item is the public hearing for, oh my gosh. What is the next? 2024-7, would you please read the preamble?
Yeah, ordinance number 2024-7. Ordinance. An ordinance of the town of Eatonville, Florida, relating to the prohibition of certain conduct in public places, amending chapter 26, miscellaneous offenses of town code to prohibit unauthorized camping on public property and rights of way, public nudity, indecent exposure, and public urination and defecation, providing for enforcement procedures, penalties, and providing for codification, conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
All right, you've heard the preamble. This item is now open for public comment. If there's anyone wishing to speak, please go to the lectern. In 3, in 2, in 1. The item is now closed for the public comment. It is now open for a motion. Is there a motion to approve ordinance the first reading of ordinance 2024-7? So it's been moved and seconded.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All right, any comments? All right. You have comment? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye, all opposed. All right. The first reading is approved. Next is the approval of the first reading of ordinance 2024-8, dissolving the Board of Adjustments.
There.
Yes.
So several things, based off the workshop hearing, and the request, the ideal to have a person from the planning board serve it cannot happen because they're on the other board, so that cannot be an option. And if it is the desire of the council to keep it, in the break, I did get a comment from a resident that said they are willing to apply and serve on that board. So we may have a problem solved there. Just so you know, if just wanted that to be on the record. So if you wanted to deny it or table it or whatever, what you want to do with it, just want to let you know that. Chief, Cliff, anything else with that?
Well, I can provide you some insight, and I don't know if this is the rationale here, although it would not surprise me. So as many of you know, but you may not know how long, I'm the city attorney for Wakefield, have been since 2002. So, you know, do the math on the years, it's been a bit. And what you need to know about that is that they have still Board of Adjustment Appeals, I think. But in all that time, that board has handled 2 cases. And so the last time I even remember it is because it had been so long since they met, they had to come in to train them as to what the job was. And so if that's what's motivating this decision, that's not an invalid reason. And it is just one of those things where based on the way the codes are handled and the things that are functioning, there's usually not a lot of activity. So that sometimes people, for example, we had to remind people that it had been so long that they were actually on the board and that they needed to come. And then they said, what do we do again? And that's why I had to do the training for just one case. And that is why other communities have done, although I didn't know whether y'all realized this, what you had proposed to do, which is take the Board of Adjustment and Appeals and merge their duties into the planning board as more active. Because even though they might not do those jobs very often, and they would have the authority to do them, and they already are regularly meeting on other issues, so they're more familiar with things like meeting procedure, sunshine, public records, all that stuff. I am not at all trying to talk you out of keeping your board. I am telling you, if one of the reasons for considering this was they don't get a whole lot of work, that's valid because it's true of pretty much all of these boards.
Yes, thank you. All right, so we're gonna move forward. Preamble, Ms. King.
Ordinance 2024-8. An ordinance of the town of Eatonville, Florida, dissolving the Board of Adjustments established by Chapter 44, Article 3, Division 3 of the Code, and transferring powers of the Board of Adjustments to the Planning Board by amending Chapter 44, Article 3, Division 2.
All right, you've heard the preamble. This item is now open for public comment.
Mayor, staff, I'm gonna pause just to allow some clarification. When considering dissolving, well, first, my first question is, if a resident has an application for that come to the Board of Adjustment, does an application, I'm assuming that is when they're typically wanting a variance outside of whatever, when they're doing their survey. If a person or a resident is asking for a variance, who makes that decision? Is that staff? And then they appeal to the Board of Adjustments? Is that the purpose of the Board of Adjustments? Or does that application for a variance come to the Board of Adjustments? I need that answer first.
Mayor, I'd like to speak on and answer that. The Board of Adjustment hears appeals from decision of the planning director. Yes.
Okay. All right. So the Board of Adjustment they're there to hear the appeal. So, and the one thing, and I'm glad that we had a resident at the break after the discussion step up to say that they that they would serve on that board. And, you know, you guys were sitting there discussing, well, we didn't know there were opening, we didn't know it. And I sit in these meetings all the time.
Not you guys.
Okay, a number of elected officials sitting on the at the, whatever, your dais or whatever you wanna call it, made comments that they didn't know there were openings. I quickly looked at two of our neighboring websites. Mrs. Key, is there, and Mr. Preston, is there any way that our website can be updated to show the current boards, the members of the boards, and if there are openings, which then people now know what boards are available? If you got 4 people sitting up here right now, 3 said, one said they're fully aware of what the openings were. So I would invite you to please deny or not pass this first reading, or to table it as Mr. Presley just recommended, because you may be able to get 2 or 3 citizen applications, which is typically the norm. After there's a need expressed in a council meeting, the next council meeting, we hear that people are interested. So I'm not sure what the protocol is, attorney, being that they've already opened it up, if it's a, you know, they vote it down and they can vote whatever they're.
If it doesn't pass first reading, and there is no second reading.
Okay, so, you know, I would invite you to vote no, and then go out and ask some volunteers or some residents to step up to the plate.
Are there any more? Thank you. Are there any more wishing to speak? 3, 2, and 1. Public period is now closed for this item. You have heard, is there a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-8, dissolving the Board of Adjustments? It's been moved. Is there a second? I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Well, last question is, we have people that want to sit on this board. You know. Well,
And I think if we only have 3, we're always gonna be at the edge of not having a board. You know, and I think that's been the issue all along. And if we have the 3, then maybe we can come back and maybe readjust who is on the board. Is that possible?
It is, there's so many different options. For example, let's suppose we got it on the floor now, but it doesn't pass. It's in a tie, or it's 3-1, or it's 4-0 against it, which is okay, because it's on the floor, you vote against it. Getting it on the floor doesn't mean you're gonna vote for it.
Right.
You can always bring it back if, for example, you can't get enough board members to serve, or once they're on the board and they realize, well, I was joined 3 months ago and I've never been to a single meeting, and what am I doing here? And, you know, which has been my experience in other boards like of this nature. Because again, as was said by Mr. McGee, the appeals are limited to appeals of individuals. So it's the planning director or maybe the building official. I'm not sure without real code, but sometimes it's both. So, and there are limited things that the planning director or the building official have absolute authority over. And that's why there's an appellate board. But it's not a conflict for the planning board, for example, to take on those functions, because it's not appeals of the planning board to the planning board, it's appeals of individual officials to whomever. And so if you wanted to vote this down, doesn't mean it's forever. You can bring it back whenever you want. And then you can see if you can get people who will serve on that board. That's step 1. Or you can say, we're going to vote it through, but I wouldn't recommend it, because reversing the process means taking all the things that we just did, undoing them and send them to Municode again. So depending on what version of Municode, you could create some confusion. If you really are not sure about what you want to do, I would say vote it down and see what you can get in terms of interest. If you're sure that based on this doesn't get a lot of activity, it's really not gonna be very active, no matter how many people we got serving, then maybe this is a good decision. But that's kind of me laying out the way I can see it developing. I don't know if there's 3, 6, 10, I don't know how many people will be interested. My concern has simply been based on prior experience that they have a lot of interest, they join up and then realize, I joined up for something, I've never had even a meeting. That's the concern.
But I mean, like I said, it's not very active, a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why it's not a board meeting every one or quarter meeting. Or, so that's the reason. I mean, it's a meeting on documents, that's it. So.
And that business can just be a part of the planning and zoning agenda, not an extra meeting. It's just a part of that work, so it's nothing extra. All right, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of first reading of ordinance 2024-8, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed.
Nay.
Council decisions, approval of resolution 2024-30. Is there a preamble?
Yes, there is. Resolution 2024-30, a resolution of the town council, the town of Eatonville, Florida, establishing policy to appoint the mayor as chair and the vice mayor as vice chair of the town of Eatonville Community Redevelopment Agency, TOFRA, provided for policies, conflict, severability, and effective date.
You've heard the preamble. Is there a motion? It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Question, go ahead.
I did, since the person that put this out is not here, that's one reason I was favorably table, so he had this, like, he put this on the agenda, so. Go ahead, vote for it. So, I would love to push the op of this document to be here.
I have a question.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what I couldn't understand about this resolution here, and that is that the calendar year for the CRA is from January the 1st to December, to the month of December 31st. And I don't know why this is come up now as a issue to be brought up to be voted upon now. Because the bylaw states that both the chair and the vice chair are to be appointed during the month of December. So therefore, I do object to this process until the month of December. I found no reasons or grounds to circumvent the process that we already have in place already. So I think we need to adhere to the bylaws. Because, and it says here that we want to appoint the mayor and the vice mayor as the chair and the vice chair of the board. Well, that shouldn't be automatically. I believe one council member had said when I first came on that was kind of like the norm in a way how it was done before. But it still doesn't deter an opportunity for anyone as a board member to become in those positions, a mayor or vice mayor. They should be up to the board to decide. So that's the way that our bylaws read. It does not state a mayor and the vice mayor of the town to be the chair and vice chair. That's up to the members of the board.
The CRA doesn't elect the chair and the vice chair. That will come from the council.
But it will come from the council. Yes, I understand.
And this is not to appoint anyone right now. This is to set policy for appointment, the last meeting in the calendar year, which would be December, as you've said.
Let me just turn to the page.
Section 3, page 25.
Okay, it says here, the recommendation that the town council approve the resolution to establish a policy for electing the chair and vice chair of the CRA, but you're asking for the appointments to be the mayor and the vice mayor. Now that, I know that's in a town council meeting. I know that's held, but at that point, it shouldn't be automatic. I don't think it's never was that way. It probably turned out that way past practice. This is not past practice.
All right.
So I object to this. until the month of December.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye, all opposed.
Nay.
Nay.
All right, so it stays as is. Attorney. Or chief, no, CAO.
Thanks, Mayor. First, happy birthday to Councilwoman who celebrated her birthday on yesterday. Also, I wanted to acknowledge our staff, who worked diligently during the Hurricane, Helene came through. We didn't have any major issues. But I want to recognize our chief, who is our incident commander, who worked diligently and has reestablished our presence in our county EOC. And so it was well recognized and acknowledged from the county that they have not seen this presence from Eatonville doing these matters. And we have stepped up in those areas to make sure we're presently involved and getting access to those things that we need, such as sandbags, stations, knowing what's happening with Duke Energy. And so that was something that has been brought by our police department and our chief. So we thank you, chief, and to our public works department who work diligently to make sure the sandbag stations are in place, as well as answering to a few calls that took place during that period. And just wanted to recognize our staff for that. Also want to recognize our staff, especially our executive assistant, Ms. Brittany, who worked diligently to make sure we had a successful kickoff meeting for the town's master plan. This was held this past Saturday. It was well attended by citizens. And so we appreciate Ms. Brittany, as well as to all of our staff members that worked on Saturday and showed up on Monday, ready to go back to work. And they were in place, and we appreciate their diligence. And we'll continue to keep the community and all of our vested partners aware of what's happening with those items. The budget's been finalized, as well as the town audit, and so now we're currently preparing us. Today is the first day of the new budget cycle. I want to acknowledge our HR director, who worked heavily to make sure that we had viable plans for our insurance. In the past, our team and most of our employees could not get family insurance because the rates were extremely high for family insurance. Because one, our size is under the threshold to get some of the better offerings for family insurance. But I will state Miss Washington worked with our provider, and we had 3 different options this year, which allowed us to negotiate and get that price down. And I believe we have 4 or 5 that have signed up for the family insurance, which has not happened in a while, and we are still getting those same premiums and options there. So that's the diligence of our HR director being in place to assist with those things, to make sure we're getting the proper coverage for our employees when it comes to health benefits, which is important when you start talking about bringing in staff members and hiring, because those things matter, not just pay. And so it was very important to see that happen. And so I wanted to give acknowledgement to Ms. Washington who worked there. Also, thank you to Mr. Washington, our recreation director, who has worked hard and made sure several of our not only our pool in operation, as well as several programs that are happening outside of this time of year where it's kind of slowing down. We have several events that are planned for the fall festival. As they'll be working, they'll having some of the trunk or treats and working with those items. We have a program that'll be starting with the school for swimming for the students that is being overseen by them. We have a full after school program, 40 kids right now that are operating within that program. And we have staff members that are working hard to make sure those things happen. That's under our recreation department that's happening there. So we're thankful for the efforts that are coming from the team over in our recreation department led by Mr. Washington. Also, we are working on several programs for the fall that will be coming before council to consider and with our recreation, such as some movie nights, and also we'll be preparing for Christmas on the Boulevard, one of our larger events at the end of the year. In regards to several items that are still open, one being the moratorium, and I just want to bring this to the attention. We have met the first part of the portion for the impact fees for the municipal and leasing. There is the outstanding part, which is the water and sewer, We have diligently went over those rates, and we are just about ready to present that to council. But I wanted to make sure the council was aware that we will have to extend that moratorium to complete that, or it's up to the council if we want to close out that and just take that privilege to go without it. But it is my recommendation. We are so close to the finish line with that. We are working on that extended period of time to finish out that moratorium, or if we have to extend that date. But that would encompass the 90-day period for the current portion and also the period for the impact fees for water and sewer. We have the preliminary numbers and we're very close to presenting them to council for workshop. As you have already received the asset management portion, which has already been presented to council, that will associate with the actual impact portion of that and the potential rate increase projections that will present to council for a recommendation and approval. So that's still taking place. Right now, we're very close to bringing that back before council. I would say probably the first meeting in November is when we'll bring those items for consideration, so we can decide with that. We have closed the garbage solid waste RFP. We have three vendors, haulers that have submitted their packages. We're going through those now. We had 5 that actually inquired, 3 actually submitted. And so we're going through those now, and then we're going to pull a group to review those RFPs and give a recommendation for council, and then we'll negotiate those rates. It is at this point, just for clarity, our current agreement ends at the end of October. We're going to do a month-to-month with the current hauler unless we end up going with a different hauler, whatever that ends up being, through the rest of this year. And we'll begin with the new hauler in January. But we just need to decide which hauler and work out the rates, and then we'll have to present back the ordinance to match whatever that new rate is for our solid waste. So that's being worked on as well now. I'll get those numbers, or hopefully November will be the same time, and we'll present those, and we'll be working to give you a recommendation on the best hauler for the community when it comes to solid waste. And lastly, we are working on a project. It's called, I think you've heard a little bit about it from Ms. Valerie, but it's the Community Change Grant, where we have an opportunity to pursue about $20 million with addressing the Resilience Hub and other opportunities for recovery, emergency recovery, and items that will deal with climate change. That's beginning. We're looking at those options over the next 3-4 days because we have a pretty intense period to make sure that Ms. Valerie has met the preliminary items. We'll meet with the representatives from the grantee this week. Then we're also meeting with EPA, who has offered their service to help us to put the final portions of that grant together to present back to the feds on that. So just wanted to keep the council aware that's happening. There is a Club Eaton workshop that's going to take place on the 10th.
We may have to change that now because of the voting, the early voting.
We may have changed the location.
We'll change the location.
Yeah, and that could be at the library. And I know that could probably work in the library, but we'll work on that. But that's coming up, and we'll work on confirming those items. But that's coming up, and also the night market is this Saturday. And so we've already worked with staff and the vendor to make sure everything's in order for the night market. I will give you a heads up that we'll probably be workshopping the night market at the end of November, early December. As we go into the new year, we need to figure out how we want to proceed forward with all special events. Not to target anyone, but just how we want to handle all special events within the town when it comes to administrative costs and expectations from special events when it comes to certain vendors and so forth and that. But we'll bring that back now that we've had a few of those events. We have some information from staff that we can now present back to council to give us a recommendation on how to proceed. With that being stated, as always, we're appreciative to the staff and their hard work, especially our finance department to get us and keep us going. I have no other comments unless you have comments.
Thank you. Attorney.
Just a brief update on where we stand with Hungerford. This week, Friday, in fact, there's a hearing in the case that doesn't involve us, but is of interest to us between OCPS and the PEC. There have been some discussions about the potential for postponing the hearing while we were in ongoing discussion about the lease purchase agreement with OCPS. I cannot tell you that I know how those things are gonna come out. Here, it may go Friday, it may not go Friday, don't know. But I do know that, I have been given the task, which I'm grateful to have, of taking the first crack at the lease purchase, since I'd already drafted it the first time. All I need to do is add a few things based on discussions that I've had with Mr. Palmerini. And again, it was confirmed, and I think Mr. Presley will tell you it was confirmed to him, that it seems like this is going in a positive direction. Piece that we don't control is the lawsuit piece, but everything I've ever been able to get from Ms. Anderson on behalf of PEC, recognizing she's a lawyer and not the client, so she has to listen to what her client says, but it's been positive. I've also had discussions with the National Trust fellow, Mr. Cody. And while these things do not have to happen simultaneously, they are looking hard at providing us the documents to set up a land trust. So ultimately, if this lease purchase goes through, we would have a trust set up that we could transfer the property into, provide some joint leadership for that organization as to how to control the property, and also make it what I hope it will be for the town, which is an opportunity for economic independence ultimately. And whatever that means to y'all, why you're going through the planning process, but that's kind of the goal, at least as I see it, to get that property and let it be for Eatonville, for example, what the west side of I-4 office park is for Maple. Something that can keep you going and allow you to flourish. If anything else happens, I will let you know, but I have promised myself, although there's no external deadline, that I will have a draft done by the end of this week to ship around to the various folks to look at, and I will certainly include you in that draft. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Daniels.
Good evening, everyone. I also would like to thank Orange County for the continual support. We have had many storms past, and Jerry Davis has come through with sandbags. If I'm not mistaken, I think one time we had our control center here at Town Hall, educating and informing our residents of what's going on. So, thank Orange County for that continued support and helping us out during our stormy seasons. I would like patrols. I don't expect our police officers, chief, to see everything, but for the most part, that I don't want to say it's disturbing to me, but to have a guy say that Family Dollar is sleeping or just sitting at that door from 3:45, 3:40 in the morning till when Councilwoman Randolph got her call. I'm not gonna say it's disturbing to me, but I'm questioning like what's going on, because if I see it, on Kennedy, where are the patrols to see it as well? I can't expect our officers to see speeding on the back roads of East Street because they're out front doing this, and to not see it or say give you a call. I just didn't say, but the call should be for the speeding on the back of East Street, not for guys sitting up there on Kennedy on our main fairway right there at Family Dollar. But that's just between you and I. Or just my concerns. Crosswalks as well. I've been even under the administration of Jenkins, I've said I would be the test dummy to step out to start getting the respect needed as the Maitlands and the Winter Park when it comes to speeding. I continue to see speeding down our roads, and I don't know how those crosswalks will help because they just don't respect them. For now, like I said, I would love to be one of those people that would sit out and take an hour or two and step out and see how many people are stopping. Because they don't. I've seen it. I've actually had to stop on the other side and flash my license so to see the person cross. So those are the challenges that we have, to get that respect. For the administration and staff, it was also disturbing to see the grand opening of the Hungerford Head Start or daycare. I thought that was awesome. The disturbing part about that is seeing other elected officials in that photo and just only one of us. So I sent the email to staff that said, did we get an invite? To have staff to say, or to have whomever to say that they sent it last minute, to me was unacceptable. If they sent it an hour before the program, we should have gotten that email within that hour as well, to give us opportunity to change our schedules to make things happen so that we can go and be represented there. Like I said, and just for the record, I would like that email as well. If I can have that invite email to see what time and what day it was, because my job knows my position here, and they're very lenient in saying, hey, I got to get out of here because I want to go and help support Hungerford. Because anybody knows, Fight Club knows that if we're going to do anything charitable, Hungerford is my thing. You know, so thank everyone for coming, and have a great night.
Councilwoman.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. Okay, I have a couple of things. You've already addressed the campers, but you're gonna take care of that. Okay, also the big house on Bethune Drive. Since the hurricane, it's leaning more. So I wouldn't be surprised if another storm comes through here and that building collapse.
We've already worked with code enforcement and the building official. We're gonna just start the process of demo. We'll have to put a lien on the project, but we have not gotten any feedback from the owner, so we're just starting that process to move forward.
But what really needs to happen right now is some type of action upon the town. We need to caution it off, because there's people that parking vehicles right next to the house. And I'm afraid that some liability, if we know that this building is like this, and we haven't warned the public, I would say just for precautionary, we need to put some yellow signs or something on the property, or caution tape. Okay. I rolled around after the hurricane, and I still saw, in fact, there's quite a few, but 2 or 3 basketball goals are still on the streets. One of them is over here on Eaton Street. Another one is in Amador. And I saw another one on another street. But on my street, the basketball goal was removed, the house that we had talked about before. And I don't know if someone had stopped by there or they decided to do it on their own, but it's off the street.
We did stop.
Yeah, so that's a good start. But
What
we
was the
need
two locations, the other 2 locations you mentioned?
Eaton Street and Amador.
Okay.
Yeah, so with the high winds, those should have been taken care of. All right. Also, there's still a lot of trash and debris along the side of the road in people's yards, waiting for the trash to come around, someone to come around with the trash. Do we still have something in place, or is that already been done?
Well, because of the status of the storm, we didn't activate any services to do that because it didn't reach the minimum requirement. However, we can work with our current provider to see if they can make sure they do that.
Yeah, you can walk, yeah, because it's quite a bit all around, but it's little small stacks.
I'll make sure I talk to Public Works.
Yeah, okay. Okay, the meeting that we're gonna have for the vision for Club Eaton was scheduled for the 10th. And we're gonna have to change location, so I work with Mr. Presley on another location for that. That's gonna be October the 10th, from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. I'm glad that we're starting a new year for the budget. However, there are quite a few things that I didn't feel very comfortable about. So I will be doing more monitoring of expenditures. I'm concerned about the reserves of the town. I'm concerned about the increase of expenditures that we have here, and to make sure that we're doing a much better job in getting our budget under control. Also, I'd like to say that I had asked several times about the deficit that we have with the post office. And I'm just letting this body know, as well as anyone else, that I am filing a congressional inquiry about the post office. So I'm doing it from both ends to let everybody know that we cannot allow, as a local government, to be operating in a deficit on any categories. And I realize too that the water situation, you said that we're going to, I'd like to know when is the increase going to be for the water? When you're going to notify us as to what the increase is going to be? Because we cannot continue and keep going in a deficit on the water as well. So, you know, we have to do something about that. Okay, and Mr. Preston, you also had mentioned about what was it? It was about the solid waste. Okay, you said we have 3 bids. Are those proposals gonna come to the council?
They will come to the
All
council.
3?
All 3 will come to the council, but the way that process normally works per procurement is that we solidified, we set up a board or a committee to review them, and we bring back the recommendations to the council. But I'd be more than happy to share all 3 of them.
Yeah, as council, I would like to see all 3. We should be able to see all 3 in the package. Okay, they can make a recommendation, but I'd like to see all 3 of those so we can do our own comparison. All right, other than that, I don't have anything else. Thank you all very much for a wonderful day, and so I'm moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you for coming out tonight. My question, same thing on House in Bethune. Is it possible, how soon can we get that demo attorney, it's like a crack house, it's not a crack house, but I'm just saying, when they have those kind of issues, people living in it, or the structure is bad, what's the timeline we can get that taken care of?
It was my understanding that it had already been condemned. So it was the notification to the owner to take care of it, and they have not responded. So I've asked code enforcement to expedite the process to proceed forward with having it demoed at the town's cost, but it will be on the expense of the property owner, and that'll be leaned on that property.
So, that's my thing is, there's another storm coming up, and if that touches or a little bit of wind, it might fall left, right, front or back. So, we definitely need to get that house taken care of. The other thing is, Eatonville. Everybody loves coming to Eatonville. We had an event Saturday, and last Saturday, and that's all you hear. I love coming here, doing things, just being a part of Eatonville. With the farmers market, with that event went on the 21st, they loved it. So that's something we need to keep doing, or anything. Like I said, anything. People just like come to Eatonville. Another thing, I know departments down here, the entries going in, I seen an accident today. And that's something I told them years ago when the no department was coming. Have the apartment complex put in a turn lane. And the first thing I said, it's not our street, but we need to get, it could have been if we put it in the development agreement that we need to put a turn lane on this apartment complex, so we won't have these people drive 45 miles per hour, ramming into each other like today happens. So that's something that we missed, but it's gonna happen more. So be aware of that there. But other than that, thanks for coming out.
Just a big thank you everyone for coming out. Also, coming out to the kickoff Saturday was a nice turnout. Thank you, Mr. Presley and staff for everything that you're doing. Thank you, Attorney Shepherd, for keeping us abreast of that school property. I think that'll be huge for the town. In regards to the event, it was not, I don't think it was put on by, because I know you're gonna check probably. It wasn't put on by the school. I think Orange County did it in conjunction. And I was invited as a teacher, maybe. So with that being said, everyone please drive carefully, enjoy the debate. Got 10 minutes to get home and get settled in. All right, I move for adjournment.
I only enjoy it if one person wins. Let's all figure out which one.
Is there a motion for adjournment? Move. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. All right, 8:48, we are adjourned.
Yeah, it's advice. It's fear that it hurts the other guy.
Oh, okay.
Not the other guy.
Thank you.